Good afternoon or good evening, Saitlanders. How are you? Today is the 4th of April, Tuesday, the 4th of April, and I want to share with you an article that appeared in Business Tech on the 31st of March, 5 days ago, 4 days ago, that I've been wanting to cover for the past 4 days. It is entitled Consumers Face Empty Shelves and Long Queues in South Africa. And before I read it to you, I'll emphasize how important this news is. How important is the story? Not because what we're going to cover, which is dramatic, it's powerful, it's alarming, not because it is the end of the world today, for us, for you, for me, in the big picture of the many dramas that are occurring in South Africa at present, but because of the implications that it has among the poorest of the poor. If there is to be a Sine van Rensburg, Nag van die Langmesse type van scenario in Suid-Afrika. If there is to be a Johanna Brandt vulkaniese uitbarsting type van scenario in Suid-Afrika, it would require the participation of the masses. And the single thing that is likely to agitate the masses adequately to participate in a nationwide anarchy, civil war, a bloodbath, is likely to be food. I mean, it is the one thing that would have the greatest effect, deprivation of food, as opposed to deprivation of work, deprivation of even SASSA grants implies deprivation of food first and foremost. And I put it to you that if you place this that I'm going to describe to you on top of what you already know about the severity of circumstances and conditions in South Africa, we're approaching a point where something must give. The center will no longer be able to hold. It can't be that the masses endure what I'm about to describe to you for very much longer without real consequences. So it begins. South Africans are seeing the price of household goods skyrocket. Larger queues and a lack of certain stock in stores across the country, says PricewaterhouseCoopers, the auditing firm or the financial consultancy firm, formerly an auditor. What do they call it? Here we go. The financial services firm, in its latest economic outlook, said that despite disruptions to global and local supply chains becoming the new normal, they continue to hamper consumers with rising prices for everyday goods, among other things. Well, that's, no offense, idiotic thing to say, naturally. South African respondents to the group's latest Consumer Insights Survey Pulse, GCIS, found that supply chain disruptions had significantly affected the price of household goods, increased the length of queues in stores, and led to some items being out of stock. Regarding the insights methodology, in other words, the way that they went about achieving these insights, the GCIS represents the consumer class. 73% of local respondents have some form of employment, and 84% are between the ages of 18 and 44. Said PwC. I would say that that's a poor sample, that it could have been much better, but okay. According to the Insights report, the following issues were experienced the most while shopping in store: rising prices, 70%, larger queues, 50%, unable to purchase a product due to it being out of stock, 28%, reduced product ranges available, blah, 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 blah. These are all things we know. Food inflation, most notably, has reached sky highs. The latest household affordability, let me just see who wrote this. Staff writer. The latest household affordability index by the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group showed that the average cost of the household food basket, which includes a selection of essential food goods, we should hope, is now 4,966 Rand 20 cents, upwards of 516 Rand 12 cents since the last year. This must be a very, very, very junior writer. But there's a point to be made here, and this is the thing that caught my eye. They say that it's not upwards, obviously, up by 516 Rand and 12 cents since the last year. So what's quick arithmetic do for us here? 4,450. 4,450, right? So it's gone up by over 25%, by over 1/5. The 516 Rand upwards is more than 25% of 4,450 Rand. That is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I've been seeing it myself, so much so that I question my own sanity. You know, I go into the shop and I think that people are ripping me off with the prices, and I have to double check, and then I question my own sanity. For instance, I like Bovril on toast, and recently I paid, admittedly we live in the back end of Beyond here in Van der Kloof. So being at the end of the supply chain and not having any major chain stores in the vicinity for 120 kilometers in one direction, the R, 140 kilometers in another direction, Colesberg, 225 kilometers to Kimberley, and roughly 250 to Bloemfontein. We pay more, but still, I paid 73 Rand for a bottle, one of the larger bottles of Bovril. And I remembered not so long ago paying 67 Rand. And I thought, that's a bit rough, because before that I remembered paying 63, and then I could distinctly recall paying 57 and 54. So there have been like the series of 3 Rand jumps every so often. My memory might not serve very well, but frequently enough for me to recall them as numbers. Not just last week it was 6.99, this week 7.99. I can go back 2.5 years. And 73 Rand for a bottle of Bovril seems to me like a hang of a lot of money. I've noticed that other people too are kind of not embarrassed to advertise the fact that they're looking for the cheaper options. And I'm not sure that I've always been aware of that. Generally people are, I don't know if scam is the right word, but shy about, smoking a cheaper brand of cigarette, or arriving at a party with a cheaper, nasty brand of whiskey, or whatever. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but I have this feeling that in recent months, recent years, people have not been scammed to admit that they're buying polony or that they're buying cheap type of cola because that's the best that they can do. We've always had poor kids around us, poor people around us. I remember poor kids at school. We weren't well to do. My father had an Armbach. So we weren't well off. But then there were those kids who, seemed to struggle, or whose families seemed to struggle. So it's nothing new. But I don't know, I'm just getting the feeling that more and more and more people can't buy good quality things, and they've overcome their own shyness about that. It is what it is now. I smoke, regrettably. I've never ever been proud of being a smoker, but I am, and I've always smoked, well, not always, but for many years I've smoked the cheapest brand of the A class of cigarettes, if you like. I smoke Winston Blue, the light ones. And they're the cheapest of the, Dunhill, Rothmans, Lexington, Life, Paul Revere, Gunston, what am I leaving out? Kent, Benson and Hedges, those brands, those proper brands that we've known all the years. And in recent years, when the cheaper brands came in, many of them, smuggled brands, smuggled brands, I kind of kept away from them because when I was a youngster, I spent a year diving on Zanzibar Island. And there you couldn't get good quality cigarettes. And so we smoked the local stuff. And the best of those cigarettes were, I think they were Turkish, or they were East African, and they were rubbish. And I've lived on a kibbutz in Israel for a while, and again, the income is very, very, very low. They don't pay you much. They give you board and lodging, and that's the deal. Smoke cheap cigarettes. So I've always kept away from that B class of cigarettes. But recently, it dawned on me that I'm spending so much, even though I'm smoking Winston's at 36 Rand a box as opposed to 67, 65, 56, for the better brands, that I've gone down about 2 notches. And God willing, it'll inspire me to give up smoking altogether. The point that I'm making is that people are now making drastic adjustments. They're not small adjustments. They're big. Going from 36 Rand a box to whatever, 20. It's a big difference. And I put it to you that when a standard basket of food, okay, I don't mean to give this poor person too much of a hard time, but the cost of a household food basket, which includes a selection of essential food goods, I should think so. I should think that if we were assessing a basket of motor vehicle products in South Africa, that we might include some cars, bakkies, and related modes of transport. So these essential food goods is now 4.9, practically 5, up from 4.5. How do you afford that on 1,000 Rand a month SASSA grant? How do you afford it if you have a family of, 9, and you're all chipping in, and you've got to pay rent and whatever, send kids to school? Do you know what I mean? There's a what the Americans call a disconnect. Something is really out of kilter here, massively so. %25 in a year. And of course, the government will tell you that the inflation rate is 6.9% or whatever it is, which is patently, I just cannot believe that it's in any wise honest, never mind truthful, that it even approaches honesty. So I am going to end this video by saying that we as Suidlanders, as we watch many dramatic events emerge in the world, we should keep an eye on the price of food with a thought in our minds for those people who are trying to pay the price, like 73 Rand a bottle for Bovril. I can make a plan. I crook a little bit on this, I cheat a little bit on that, I take a shortcut with the next thing. Okay, I can get my Bovril. But there are people for whom Bovril is not even a remote possibility, and for whom bread may be becoming a challenge, for whom polony. Hey, how's this, guys? I walked into a shop the other day, no names, and I pulled a polony off the shelf and took it to the counter, and they rang up my purchase, and it was a short list and 4 or 5 items. So I was even able to keep track of it in my mind, instinctively, without even thinking about it. And the bill came to whatever it was, I don't know, 200 Rand or something, 300 Rand. And I said, how on earth did you get to that? So they said, well, there's so much for this, so much. I said, yeah. And 100 Rand for the polony. I said, 100 Rand for polony? They said, yeah, it's the cheese polony, it's more expensive. I didn't ask about the non-cheese polony, the this, the that, the next thing. I just put the thing back. $100 for cheese polony. And you know that cheese is not pure Guernsey from the Midlands of Natal, the best. It's rubbish. It's full of plastic from China. The plastic that they put in the milk now. Yeah. Enough said. Guys, we are approaching a time when things are very expensive, and you and I will cope. You and I will persevere. You and I will find a way. There are many who will not. And at a certain point, they might find themselves in such a circumstance, and they might be in such a condition that there's little left for them but to go berserk. Okie dokie, everybody. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye, and God bless all of you.